Good evening. It is Monday, July 11th, 2022. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education. So this time we'll take roll call. Mr. Carney?
Here.
Mr. Goodman?
Here.
Ms. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Powell?
Here.
Ms. Reed?
Here.
Ms. Wells?
Here.
I'm Jean Price. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Item 1.3, district mission statement.
Yes, it's to prepare every student for success in every classroom, every day.
Item 1.4, scheduled patron input is 0. Item 1.5, adoption of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Murphy, seconded by Mr. Goodman to adopt the agenda as presented. All those in favor? 7-0, thank you. Okay, item 2, city manager report. Mr. Kramer? Oh,
I feel like I was just here, but I'm happy to be here again. Update you on what's going on with the city and of course entertain any questions that you may have. We are right in the throes of budget. Friday is the city's budget hearings, 8 o'clock, 8:30 to 4 o'clock at City Hall. We'll start with the capital budget at 8:30. We'll move through police and fire and all the departments. We'll take an hour break for lunch and try to get it wrapped up. That's really the opportunity for the commission and the public. The draft budget's available online. Copy at the city clerk's office, copy at the library to look through it. It's a bit of an intimidating document, but it's a big city and it's a complex budget structure. So that is an open public meeting that we have Friday. And then we'll see how the commission takes the budget. If they have changes they'd like to make, staff will go back and we'll schedule an update at a study session or a regular meeting after that. I did present the highlights of the budget last week. Just a couple notes, and these are all in the city manager's proposed budget. Nothing's adopted, nothing's been vetted by the commission, although it is from input from the commission. We're looking at a 1 mil decrease. I think you saw we're looking at freezing refuse and sewer rates for a year. That's not always the best idea long term, but we've had some salary savings. We've had some good luck with capital reserve projects coming in at reasonable rates. So we felt that it was important as valuations go up, inflation's up, consumer prices are up, to try to do what we could. So we felt we could do that. So that's in the recommended budget. The investments are where you would think they would be. Roads, more than $4.5 million in roads for 2023. A big deal for us, I'm sure for you, I've talked to the county, I've talked to Lansing, is personnel. I don't know that we're ever going to compete dollar for dollar with the private sector, but we have to be a place that we can attract talent. We have to be a place that we can retain talent. And so we're looking at a big change in our fire department. We've been focusing on the police department for about the last 5 years. And when I say focus, we did what's called a step system where you get an automatic increase for police officer 1 to police officer 2 by hitting benchmarks at year 3 or year 5 or year 7 as you move through the ranks. And that's a tool to help retain. For the first time that anybody can really remember, agencies are accepting lateral police transfers. And so we are training, sending to the academy 4 or 5 years once they actually start being a really productive, good judgment, sound officer, and then we lose them. So we're doing that now with fire because we're seeing the same thing. Shawnee's building fire stations, Overland Park's building fire stations. And so we're raising the starting pay, and then to avoid compaction or those firefighters who have been here 3, 4, 5 years not being at the same level as our new minimum, we have to make the adjustment all the way through the ranks. So we've asked the commission to allocate $360,000 for the total implementation of this new fire department wide pay system and pay increase. To give you an idea, you think, what does that equate for a city, for mills? It's about $1.25 million. And so we're dropping in $1 million. We did see a pretty good valuation increase, but we're giving $1 million back. About $1 million was generated from new growth. So these are new houses, vacant buildings that are now reused, that are backs on the tax rolls that did not come from existing businesses or existing property owners. And then so a good portion of the remainder of that will then go to the fire department if the commission elects to go that direction. And then we are looking at about a 5% total pool for city employees, but we're going to wait till mid-year to be able to do that as we look at. We're looking at some cities 6, 7, 8%. I'm hoping inflation comes down because I know that they're benchmarking it off that to some degree. We've been closer to 2.5% for the last couple of years, which has really gotten us behind. And all you do is get yourself behind when you do that, and then you try to avoid making those dramatic increases if you're not able to get a little bit more into those annual raises. And then some, boring stuff. The roof at the Riverfront Community Center. We have to replace all of the piping inside City Hall. All these just maintenance stuff that you have with old structures. City Hall turns 100 in 2024. So as we prepare for that, a lot of the stuff was addressed in the renovation in 2005 and 6, but a lot of the bones of the building are original to 1924. So some work that we have to do there. A couple other things going on in the city. Next Tuesday, the 19th, we welcome the international officers to the city of Leavenworth. I know the school district will have a presence that morning. The city will, of course, the officers came, and the icebreaker was last week with a set of icebreakers for all the international officers. So the 19th is the community day. So we have lunch and have them at the Riverfront Community Center. Camp Leavenworth is, again, September 23rd and 24th. Really impressed with the amount of turnout we've had from the Camp 5K, which is a walk and run. What we wanted to continue to add elements to Camp Leavenworth, but one thing we wanted to do is get more people there at the start of the festival on Saturday. It opens up at 11 o'clock on Saturday. Sometimes you weren't getting a big crowd until 2 or 3 or 4. So the run will finish at 11. So all the friends and family and the runners, it's designed to sort of kickstart that festival first thing Saturday morning. So we have a couple dozen already signed up for that event. Let's see what else here. We closed on Friday on 600 Cherokee. I know we've been following that project. The grand scheme of things, not a big project, but an important intersection in the downtown. So that's the former Club Venom building. So the city purchased that. We did an RFQ process. Wilcott Brewing has taken that project on, and so we closed Friday. And they have an ambitious opening of October. They want to be open for Oktoberfest, but they have a lot of work to do. So I've seen their plans. They have everything approved. So you should see work start pretty soon on that project. Tomorrow night we award the mill and overlay. So a lot of work on our streets. We already awarded half. Now this is the second half. Work hasn't started on the first half. They're probably starting in early August. So the second half includes big ticket items like Vilas 10th to 15th. That's a huge one that comes up a lot for the city. 5th Street from City Hall all the way down to the bridge. Cherokee from Broadway all the way to 4th as we continue to do those. So that stretches in front of Haymarket Square and the Water Department and Tenpenny and Gronis and all the way to 4th as we try to invest in the downtown ahead of the 2023 reconstruction of 4th Street through the downtown. So trying to get ourselves ready for that big project. Just the only other couple notes, baseball and softball ended last week. It was a rough year with the heat. We've never had heat indexes quite like this. We actually canceled some games. We delayed start times, but we got a lot of the games made up, not all of them. We actually played on Saturdays for the first time in a while. And so we use that 105 heat index. We don't start a game if it's not below 105 heat index. And we had games at 7:30 at night where the heat index was still over 105. So it was a tough season, but we made it through that. So that's what I had prepared. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Oh.
But Mr. Carney originally said he had 1 or 2. So we'll allow him to go first.
I know the state's is responsible for it. Is there any chance of getting 18th and 21st Street paid for the state? Go down in front of the Career Center and then past Casey's. I mean, they patched that thing really poorly twice now.
Spruce?
Spruce.
You're talking about? Yeah.
The state's responsible.
The state is redoing the intersection of 20th and Spruce in 2023, but it's only going to go out about, I think, something like, ridiculous. It's more like a 16th of a mile in each side of the intersection. But as you're talking about the actual roadway, I don't think that's on their plans, but I can check to see if they have it on the long-term plans.
that's the stretch.
Yeah, the intersection is, but I'm not aware of anything on Spruce right now.
Yeah,
That
just that
stretch.
intersection,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, I consider that the block each side of 20th Street
Right.
is the intersection.
So I don't know how far out the intersection project will go, but I don't think as far as,
And the other one, real quick, is, we had the parking lot we did at Henry.
Mhm.
So are we gonna enforce people parking illegally on the street?
we're not probably gonna write tickets.
No?
Probably not. So the city does have what's called a Transportation Alternatives Grant pending. They're supposed to be awarded in August. And I think we have two big projects in that. We have every ADA ramp and sidewalk gap or fill-in on Violet's from 10th to 20th. If you know, there's a lot of hard curves there. There's no ADA ramps on a lot of those sidewalks. The other thing is we have a completely separate Transportation Alternatives Grant. I think we have a good to rebuild Violet's from 20th to 22nd. Curbs and gutters, widen sidewalks on both sides. That's about a $2 million project when you get into stormwater, when you get into the redoing this grant. We pledged 25% match, and so we'll know in August. So hopefully if we get that with your investment in the parking lot and the new bus entrance, then, but it's only usually the first couple of weeks, and then everybody knows what's going on out there. But I'll let you know as soon as we know on the Transportation Alternatives Grant.
Woolman.
Huh?
Woolman Pool.
Yep.
What can be done about security out there? My 17-year-old's now even afraid to go.
I'm not
And
afraid
there's
to go.
knives out
I'm not
there.
afraid to take my kids. We do patrols. We had a group of juveniles who had a disturbance that started during the school year actually, and has gone into the summer, who met out there. And so we had one large incident. We've had a security guard in the past out there. That position's been open for 2 years with nobody wanting to fill that. We have a good head lifeguard returning, so you go on a day that happens and you're not gonna wanna go back. But on balance, it's been a pretty good year. I believe a pretty safe year, in a place that, that I would encourage people to take their families, and just be careful. But other than
Right.
that, I think it's been going all right.
Well, it's encouraging that you say you have a head lifeguard coming back.
Well, that's key.
Right.
We lowered the lifeguard age to 15 because we didn't have, you see a lot of pools that are closed this summer around cities. But the trade-off there is you have 15-year-olds who don't know how to or don't have that authoritative presence
Right. Or if
to
that group,
see, to identify.
or if that group attacks
Right.
the lifeguard, putting their
And
life
and this
at
one this
risk.
year was a little bit, this was something that we hadn't seen in a couple of years. This was call the police and get out of the way because
Right.
this is, yeah. And unfortunately a lot of times that colors the pool for the whole year, the whole summer, the whole community.
And there's only 4 weeks left.
Yeah. and
Before the
so,
school
yeah,
was.
Yeah, that was bad, and of course, they were all banned from the pool, and kicked out and not to return, but.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And just put out there that there is a position open for security.
Yeah, so it's not active now. We had it through the whole season leading up to the pool opening, and we got, nothing kind of thing, and so we'll put it back out again next year.
Okay.
We had a retired military officer who did it for 2 years, and it was great, but it's just a tough position to fill.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank
Yeah,
you.
No, thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Kerr?
I would just ask that while construction, the road work is happening, you said it's going to begin in August.
Mm-hmm.
Just please be in communication with the district if it impacts
Right.
our school traffic.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Kerr.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, item 3, consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
A motion by Ms. Wells, a second by Mr. Goodman to accept the consent agenda as posted. All of those in favor? 6-1, thank you. No items removed from the consent agenda. Next item is reorganization of the Board of Education. First one is selection of officers, so
Madam President, I move that Judith Price be elected as President of the Board of Education, USD 453 for the 2022-2023 year.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Tall, a second by Ms. Wells for you to be be elected as president of the Board of Education 453 for the 2022-2023 year. All those in favor?
Do we get to have any
Yeah,
Sorry,
discussion
sorry,
on
sorry,
this?
sorry, sorry. Yes, sorry, sorry.
Any other nominations?
Yes, any other nominations? Sorry. First and second, but any other nominations?
So used to those single issue
Right. just
Yeah.
vote.
votes. Okay, we have a second, let's vote.
Before we go forward with the vote, I do have some concerns over this last year. And this is probably going to be uncomfortable for many of us on the board right now. When going through board policy and reviewing certain things, it's always mentioned that board member X is not following board rules or board member Y is not following board rules. There's two key points here. It says here, as a board member, we must maintain awareness of viewpoints of constituents and issues pertaining to the schools. But then it says recognize and respect his or her position as a representative of all stakeholders and a role model for them. Further on down, it'll say as a role model as you expect the staff to be. We haven't had that this last year, and it's very visible online. And when that falls into that, it goes back over to the president. It's their responsibility to foster and facilitate communication and respect between and among board members. That has been lacking. We've had board members that are disrespected by other board members, done publicly in public groups on social media. There are board members whose spouses go and do the same thing. And I am rather ashamed. I get complaints weekly at my job over this, let alone board members should not harass other board members at their places of business. And before we go forward to this vote and even having a vote of confidence from me, I want to know that these things are going to be facilitated and corrected so that we do have a better working relationship on this board. And I can understand other people being felt left out on this board. This board has not been very welcoming to all the new members on the board. And I find that very shameful as well. And if we are going to go forward with this, I want assurances that that is corrected and guided and made more beneficial for the board as a whole. Because that is the kind human thing to do, but that is also the respectful, mature, professional thing to do. And that has been a huge breakdown. And I'm getting it from retired people, I'm getting it from current employees, and it just needs to be fixed. Thank you.
Any other discussion or nominations?
I would like to nominate Elisa Murphy for president.
Do you have a second?
I will second for purposes of voting.
Okay. Let's see, do by order of motion
Or you could see if there's any other nominations.
or any other nominations. Okay, we have two nominations at this point. Let's take a motion in a second. Any other nominations? So, order of nominations.
Yeah, by order, yes.
Okay, so the first motion was from Powell, by Mr. Powell, second by Ms. Wells, for Judy Price to be reelected as president of the Board of Education. All those in favor? 4-3, 5-2, thank you. Okay, so the second motion by Ms. Reed, or do we need to?
Since it was unanimous, it doesn't vote. Is that right, Robert?
It's not
Or does it
unanimous,
vote?
It's 5-2, so we have 5.
It's 5-2.
But I mean, the majority, I said unanimous, but by the majority, that's correct. They wouldn't vote on the second one?
Okay, so then the second motion is basically no.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations. I look forward to seeing some more positive change in the dynamics.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, item 5-3, election of vice president of the Board of Education. Do you have a motion? Nomination?
I'd like to nominate Mike Powell to remain the Vice President of the Board of Education for this upcoming year.
Second.
Either? Okay. Any other nominations, vice? Okay. So this time we have a motion by Ms. Wells, a second by Mr. Goodman, to re-elect Mr. Powell as the Vice President of the Board of Education for 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor? 6-1, thank you. Okay, we're almost done. Item 6, reorganization of Board of Education for appointments and designations. So the following items are routine action items which are necessary to meet state and federal requirements. These items will be approved by one motion following discussion or clarification from the board. So my intent is to read through all of the items first, and then if we need to discuss or clarify, we'll do it at the end. Okay. So moving on, item 6.2, board clerk, recommendations is mathematics. 6.3, the assistant clerk, the recommendations is Brenda Shoemaker. 6.4 for treasurer is recommendations Christine Korth. 6.5 truancy, the recommendation of principals and assistant principals. 6.6 is the hearing officer for free and reduced meals, the recommendation is mathematics. 6.7 child nutrition representative, the recommendation is Cynthia Schrader. 6.8 capers representatives, the recommendation is mathematics, Christine Korth, Darlene Klaus, and Stephanie Cooper. 6.9 federal state grant representatives, the recommendation is Amy Sloan. 6.10 section 504 representative, his recommendation is Mike Roth. 6.11 freedom of information officer, the recommendation is Jay Potter. 6.12 name of depository for district funds.
It's all the local banks. Yeah, probably wouldn't hurt.
So it'd be Bank Midwest, Commerce Bank, Exchange National Bank, Mutual Savings Association, Country Club Bank, Citizens Federal Savings, Armed Forces Bank, Citizens National Bank, and State of Kansas Municipal Investment. 6.13, selection of official district newspaper. The recommendation is the Leavenworth Times. 6.14 is impact aid representatives. The recommendation is mathematics and Darlene Klaus. 6.15 is coordinator of homeless children duties. The recommendation is Amy Sloan. 6.16 is Polsinelli Law Office, Kansas Association of School Boards. For our attorney. 6.17 transportation supervisor is mathematics. 6.18 health, dental, and vision insurance broker. The recommendation is Hayes Company. 6.19 property liability errors and omissions insurance broker. The recommendation is Riley and Sons. And that brings us to the end for the motion to approve all appointments and designations. Unless there's anything required for clarification.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular organization as listed and verbally carried through.
Motion is support. Motion by Ms. Murphy.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Murphy and a second by Ms. Wells to approve all the appointments and designations as presented in item 6 for the reorganization of the board for the 2022-2023 business year. All those in favor? 7-0, thank you. Okay, item 7, reorganization of the Board of Education and organization procedures. So the following items are actions necessary to meet state and federal regulations. These items will be approved by one motion following any discussion or clarifications. So item 7.2, resolution 22/23-001, the generally accepted accounting principles. Item 7.3, resolution 22/22-002 to rescind previous policy and adopt Board of Education manual for the 2022-22-23 year. 7.4, resolution 22/23-003 and 22/23-004, approval of petty cash funds. 7.5, resolution 22/23-005 to approve the Board of Education meeting dates and times for 2022-2023.
Just as an interruption there, just as a clarification, it was asked this last spring break to possibly move the board meeting off that. So your March board meeting, if you haven't made notice, is actually the Monday, that first Monday, as opposed to the Monday of spring break.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7.6, resolutions 22/23-006 through 22/23-013, approval to maintain activity funds. 7.7, Resolution 22/23-014 to establish home rule. 7.8, approval of early payment of claims. 7.9, authorization of certificates for manual signature. 7.10, approval to publish notifications. And item 7.11 is a motion to approve all the organization procedures outlined.
Make a motion to reorganize of the Board of Education with the procedures.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Murphy, a second by Mr. Goodman to approve all the organization procedures as outlined in item 7. All those in favor? 7-0, thank you. You did very quickly.
I did.
All right, so item 8, review of revenue neutral tax rate.
So this is what we talked about prior to, and there's a few changes from what I sent you earlier today. Beth finalized some things with the county treasurer today about 4:30, late this afternoon, and I got this about 4:30. One of the things that I want you to make note of on this, one sheet that I thought would be a good point of reference for you is the second sheet, and that is what our mill rate has been historically since 2014. So that's on the second page of this. And so with that, one of the things that have changed, again, is that this is new. This is something that boards haven't had to do in the past. This is looking at our estimated mill rate where we're at today. One place of note is your general fund. Your general fund does exceed the revenue neutral. And so we have no control over the general fund. That's controlled by the state. What you're looking at is supplemental general, capital outlay, and bond and interest. Your supplemental general, salaries and things like that come out of that as well. Your capital is all your building projects, which you as a board have looked at many projects and are considering projects coming up. And then your bond and interest, that's mandated by public vote. You have to have the money to be able to do that. So if you have money in the fund, well, you do, that's an 18-month payout on your bond and interest. So your bond and interest is paid out over 18 months. So you collect taxes in an 18-month period to make sure that you're able to meet the liabilities that we have with the bonds. So really, when you look at this, your bond and interest, even though most likely the proposed budget in September will be to make sure we're there on that, the two funds you would look at are your capital outlay and your supplemental general. Well, your supplemental general is tied to the raises and those types of things the boards approve. And so as we get into this and dive into this more on the 25th and then again in September, you'll have more time to really look at that. This today is not approving the budget. It's not approving that you're going to exceed the revenue neutral. What this is that you are approving the ability to move forward with the budget process, that we will send this to the county treasurer. She will send out to all the taxpayers of the county, notifying them of exactly what their tax rate is, and they would be available to sign up to come to the budget hearing and share with the board their trust or distrust with the way the mill levy plays out. One thing that this does, and again, this is an estimate, and I'm not going to try to steal all Beth's thunder because I know she wants to add a few things, but this is a proposed mill rate that's actually a little less than last year's mill rate, but that is based on what the board would want to decide in September. So with that, Beth, I'm not sure what I explained that you might want to revisit.
Hit a lot of the high points. The total is 57.516 mils. So I know the form there it looks like it's only 37, but you have to add 20 mils for the general fund to it. So that's the grand total is 57.16. Just for reference, our mill rate for the 21-22 budget was 57.36. So not a huge difference in the mill rate. We have to, this is setting the maximum for the mill rate, so we cannot go any higher. This would be the max. We do have to tell the county clerk before July 20th that we are exceeding the revenue neutral rate. So that's why this is before you tonight.
Yeah, the proposed is exceeding it, but the general fund exceeds it regardless.
Now, if I understand this right, Beth, the 57.16 or 168, whichever document you looked at, includes a reduction in the capital outlay? Or is that just our estimate?
This is the 8 mil max that we can have for the capital outlay.
Okay, so when we look at the budget, we could look at whether or not we wanted to reduce it and go with lower mill rate at that point. So this is just for information, right?
Correct.
Okay.
This piece of paper just goes to the county book. And then it gets published when we publish the budget in August.
I have a question. So I know you and your predecessor have always been really great at being able to refinance some of our loans so that we save interest and things like that.
Yep.
Is that gonna, if we find another one like that, is that gonna help pull this down?
Yes, the interest payments would then come down and that would
Save. Okay,
bring the mill levy down, but it'd be more like in future years, not immediately.
right.
And we weren't able to do that refinance in 22 because of
Economy.
economy change, so.
And one of the things just to consider as a board, like especially with bond and interest, it's good that the evaluation's going up because you can kind of keep that mill levy flat. And it's good to build some carryover, especially in your bond and interest, because if all of those projected payments and all the projected income coming in is projected on a % of your evaluation going up. So if you would hit, like say the recession hits and our evaluation kind of stays stagnant, part of the carryover in that allows you not to have to spike that at the end because we're predicting kind of worst case scenarios. And then as your bonds get close, if you refinance or as it gets close, then you have the money to pay them off earlier as they begin to come to the end of the payments. And so there's several things to look at in the bond and interest piece to that. One, again, it's an 18-month payout, but you're also planning for like worst case scenarios of evaluation staying stagnant or going down or those types of things, because that's by law, we're mandatory to make those payments. So if we would run short in that, that would be an area where you could see a mill rate spike in the wrong direction. So kind of leveling that out, kind of you always use the teeter-totter, trying to keep that teeter-totter perfectly balanced.
So my next question on that of trying to plan for worst case scenarios, we watched fuel expenses, which is going to be your heating, your oil, transportation, the gas to run the equipment that we have at the school. Yes, it's down for about 3 months with some relief from the strategic oil being released to help reduce that, and tax breaks for about 3 months. If we see that cap up to $6, $7, $8 a gallon, did we even try to project that far in to see how that could affect us?
So that a lot is, again, your supplemental general. The supplemental general was originally designed for those types of things. Now, more salaries and things have come in because of inflation and those types of things over years. So it's more of a balance. Those are more of a balance between the general fund and the supplemental general fund. So, we've got to be careful in those areas as well. But also one thing that you have in your back pocket is your contingency reserve, which are one-time expenditures. So if we got into a bind or something to that nature, you would be able to adjust that contingency. But you may or may not have the money to ever replenish that contingency as well. So it's a balance act all the way through. Our goal and the goal that we've had over the last 8 years is to try to keep this mill levy as flat as possible to we're not having to adjust mill levies. Now, granted, evaluations have gone up. So there is some adjustments that can be made, some slight adjustments. But as we try to attract and retain good staff and things like Mr. Kramer said earlier, we don't get to raise prices to offset that.
Right.
Our evaluation and our student population are the two things that drive a
Drives
school
our
budget.
income,
Yes.
right. The income for the budget. All right, thank you.
But again, this is not to approve the budget in any
No,
way,
no,
shape, or form.
no, yeah.
This is just to keep the budget process going. And if I'm not mistaken, Beth, is this the vote that has to be by roll call, or is it the next one?
It's the next one.
Any questions?
I was just going to state on Friday, May 6th, Dr. Roth received an email from the Leavenworth County Administrator that stated, greetings, as some of you may have heard, the Board of County Commissioners has expressed interest in hosting a work session with the largest property tax collecting entities in the county. The intention of the meeting is to have an open dialogue about property tax collections and the flaw in the current appraisal and taxation system. They would like to invite you and your elected officials to attend. In an attempt to find a date that will work around other already scheduled meeting dates, it appears Wednesday, June 27th is the most likely date. I have reserved the community room at Lansing City Hall from 6 to 7:30 on June 27th. If you could review this date and time with everyone on your end and let me know if it will work and how many are interested in attending, I would appreciate it. I would just like to know if Jack knew about this meeting.
I told you the only one that I talked to was Ms. Price.
Okay, so Ms. Price knew about the meeting. No other board members?
I don't know. I think Mr. Powell, did you and I have a conversation about that?
Not about the date, no.
So it was an invitation for all board members to be able to hear about the taxes throughout the county, but it wasn't forwarded to us.
It was not forwarded, no.
And to speak to Dr. Roth, I do appreciate your apology to me after the fact. I was wondering if you responded to this email and extended that we would be interested in meeting if they rescheduled.
I have not, no.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam President, I move to approve the administration to conduct the necessary analysis to comply with the revenue neutral rate requirements and to establish the budget and to provide for public disclosure through the county clerk or treasurer? Clerk.
Okay. A motion by
Second.
Mr. Powell. Second by Mrs. Wells to essentially give you permission for analysis and publishing of our revenue neutral tax rate to the county clerk. Correct? All right. All those in favor? Okay, 6-1, thank you. Great. Item 9, ratification of the 2022-2024 negotiating agreement.
I am happy to announce that Sharon Miller is here, but we, two teams, worked really hard. One day came together and we have a tentative agreement, and she has announced, her and Mr. Murphy, that they have 57% of the teachers vote for ratification, so it has passed. They had 156 of the teachers vote, so very good turnout. So thank you for your work, and sorry. Mrs. Perkins here as well.
I usually don't say anything, but since I'm a part of that team, this year was actually, I thought, one of our the best negotiations ever. It was just very, very positive. It was awesome.
Any other comments or questions?
Madam President, I move to approve the 2022-2024 negotiated agreement as presented.
Second. Excitedly second.
Awesome. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Powell, second by Ms. Murphy to approve the 2022-2024 negotiated agreement as presented. All of those in favor? 7-0, thank you. Item 10, superintendent.
So thank you all for responding back to Ms. Shoemaker on the special board meeting. One of the things we would cover was what you just approved and how that would tie back into student achievement. And so what I would propose to the board on the 25th at 7:30 a.m. that you're invited. That's when our new teachers report. We'll begin at the high school at 7:30 for those of you that want to attend and welcome new teachers. Feel free to do so. There's usually a little meet and greet at the beginning where you can walk around and meet our new staff and welcome them to the district. And then at 9 o'clock, we would begin in this room. Our plan at this time is to review with the board the discipline data from the district over the past school year. Then Mr. Bodensteiner will, and Mr. Bodensteiner will give the student data along with Ms. Batson. Then we have budget data that Beth will tie in the revenue neutral with the overall budget document to the best of its completion at that time, and how the budget line items tie back into student data. And then the board will go through a needs assessment at that time. And then we'll do strategic planning, trying to work with the strategic plan. Then the board would have to, at that time, also at this meeting, we would have to approve the student handbooks. We pulled it off of today's agenda due to an employee not being able to be here this evening. And then just some miscellaneous, anything that would come up that the board would want to discuss at that time would be the agenda for that day. So discipline, student data, achievement data, testing data, budget data, how it ties back, needs assessments, which is required by law, the strategic plan, wrapping up the last strategic plan, trying to schedule forward what the strategic plan would look like, because I think you would also be able to tie facilities, what you heard discipline-wise, what you've heard, and it's just setting a platform so that would move forward. Student handbook, and then anything miscellaneous that would need to come up. So we will have lunch. We'll have a lunch break scheduled in that, but our intent would be from 9 to 4 that day.
So the only votes that are going to be is the vote on the handbook?
The only vote would be a handbook vote. Yes.
Okay, the rest will be
Yes.
discussion.
Yep. That would be the only action item. Everything else would be discussion.
Okay.
And the only reason why we added an action item
What-
is because we pulled the student handbook from today.
Okay,
What time will you have to leave?
about 2:30. But we can eat and
That's
still
so we
listen
can,
to.
we can move the
we-
item, we can move the item to,
Yeah,
so
thank you.
that's fine.
And the time was 9 to 1.
9 to 4 is what we have tentatively scheduled, yes. And we will have personnel in and out. My goal is to have principals available as much as possible that day. Ms. Batson and Mr. Bodensteiner will be in and out because they have new teacher academy. And so anyway, look forward to a positive day. I think that there's a lot to discuss. I think there's a lot of information that the board will digest that day here. I think it will also set the plate and the platform for how you want to move forward, not only from a financial standpoint, but from a strategic standpoint as well. So it's exciting to be able to talk about what the future could look like. And then the last thing we touched the last time, and I know Mr. Kramer mentioned it tonight, or Mr. Carney did, with talking about the Henry. They're scheduled to start laying asphalt this week with the mill and overlay, hopefully completed by the first part of next week at the latest. And then the high school tennis courts, they're scheduled to come in, and this week should be the last week of curing for the cement, and they should come in with the surface beginning sometime next week, or it has to be completed by the 1st of August. So anyway, projects over the summer went really well, and things are coming together. It's amazing that the high school all the principals, building leadership, and directors report Monday. So excited to get everybody back. It seems like summer hadn't begun yet. It's already over. So we're excited for the new school year.
On the tennis courts, I had a constituent ask if it was supposed to be just an old fence put back up. We didn't have a plan to put a new fence up.
To my knowledge, the fence was in good shape. Matt or Dave didn't say anything different. So it is.
I didn't think we did.
We do have new nets coming.
Yeah.
So just for clarification, because we didn't get it before the meeting. So the check register, which had an allocation for the tennis court, is that just an interim payment? We still have follow-up? Okay. That's all I really wanted to know. Thank you.
And that's all I'm expressing.
I have a question about the new teacher academy. In the past, there's been, like, as teachers are coming in, is it supposed to begin at 7:30? Is when Laura's going to start the presentation?
No, it'll be very similar. It's a meet and greet. There's some breakfast items, just kind of, get to know, and then we will start about 7:45, 7:50.
Okay, perfect. All right, great, thank you.
Moving on to item 11, executive session for non-elected personnel.
Madam President, I move we go into executive session to discuss non-elected personnel pursuant to the exception under the Kansas Open Meetings Act in order to protect the privacy interest of the individuals to be discussed, and that we return to open session in this room. We said 25 minutes, so 10, yeah. 07:10.
Second. And you'd like to invite?
The board will invite Dr. Rowe, Amy Sloan, and board attorney Robert Ingela into the meeting.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Powell and a second by Ms. Murphy to go into executive session with Dr. Ruth, Amy Sloan, and Robert Miller in attendance. All of those in favor? So, no, thank you. All right. Okay. Returning from executive session, we have item 12, executive session action items.
I'd like to approve the staffing report.
Second.
Report.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Wells, a second by Ms. Murphy to accept the staff report as presented. All those in favor? Mike? Yes or no? Just to confirm. Okay. 7-0, thank you. All right, upcoming, item 13, closure for upcoming meeting dates. As Dr. Rose mentioned, the 18th is administration's first day back. Our new teacher academy starts on the 25th of July, the same day as the next board work session. And then 8 August is our next board meeting. Lots of stuff. All right, item 13.2, unscheduled patron input. I have Ms. Moore. Just a reminder that it's basically 3 minutes.
Thank you. Mrs. Sloan basically alluded to much of what I wanted to mention briefly, but on behalf of the association and the certified staff of USD 453, we are pleased with the outcome of our contract ratification, and we just want to thank the negotiating team and the board representatives. This year's negotiation process was quick, collegial, and reflected the teamwork we sought to build with the board. This year's negotiations team was represented by all levels of our staff, including special education. And that's something that our team is very, very proud of, and we want to continue in years to come. We wanted to say bravo to Mr. Hingula on another great season at Theater in the Park. Many of us were following, so congratulations. And thank you for all the work that you do with us throughout the year, not including negotiations. The last 2 years in education have been incredibly difficult for all of us, and it is a key goal of our association to maintain an open and working relationship with the board. We know that's not the case with many districts in the area, and it's something that we want to continue to have. So thank you very much. We hope you guys have a great summer. We know when we come back in August for the next meeting, it'll be time for back to school. So thank you all very much, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before we start with board member comments, I have one comment to make to everyone. Commissioner Kaz was in attendance tonight. Before she departed, she stopped me to let me know that the meeting that Ms. Reed referred to in the 6 May email was canceled on 15 June. That would be rescheduled, but at this time, that meeting has not been rescheduled.
I'm sorry, Judy, did you say when it was canceled?
It was canceled on 15 June, and she said it would be, that it was in that message, it said it would be rescheduled, but the date has not been redetermined.
Oh, thank you.
Just wanted to, since she shared that, I figured I'd share it with everybody. Okay, so now 13.3, board member comments. Ms. Reed. Start with you.
I didn't vote for the consent agenda with the check registry just because Uncover Casey was on there, which I wasn't a fan of. And I'm excited for the next school year. And I thank all the staff that's coming on and all the staff that stayed. And hopefully we can do great work with all the students.
Mr. Goodman.
So it almost feels like the school year hasn't ended. That's mostly my daughter's fault.
ROTC, right?
ROTC, they recently had a wrestling meet that they all went to.
Summer Pulp.
They did very well with that. So I'd like to thank the staff for, providing these opportunities to our kids. I almost wish that I could get her to enjoy the summer vacation more, but she's a hard charger. So I'm very excited about the civics classes that we're going to be teaching. I had a chance to speak with Mrs. Batson about that, and looking forward to that coming in the coming school years and us developing that. And, while it's an elective now, I'd sure love to move it into the more required classes. So looking forward to having those. And with that, that's all.
Thank you. Ms. Murphy?
Oh, wow. So yeah, you're right. It doesn't feel like school actually even ended. And I failed to even think about this when you were giving your report, Dr. Roth, how summer school's been going. I know that high school's already done with their summer school. When do they end for the other classes? Are they already finished?
So actually, Ms. Batson gave a report today. So Ms. Batson, you want to share that real quick?
So our high school summer program was overwhelming success. So thank you to high school administration and staff for that. I may be a little off, going off memory, but we had about 225 credits recovered. We have 8 seniors that have graduated now that did not graduate in May, 2 more right on the cusp of it, and 45 students back on track with their peers for graduation. We are over halfway done with our elementary and our middle school summer program. They are in Pioneer City unit for elementary, and then we're continuing with our CSI unit. If you've been following us on social media, you've been seeing some of the cool things they're doing from there. So far, overwhelming success on all fronts, knock on wood, that we end. The program will end on June 22nd. So
July.
July, yes. So we'll see. School's not ended yet.
That date just stands out.
I know, it's just there. No, July 22nd, New Teacher Academy, July 25th.
I don't mean to drag it out, but we had talked previously about the whole setup of Lawson and seeing how those kiddos do as they transition and all that. Will you be updating us at a certain month, or?
I can share with you when we meet briefly on the 25th, some of our data showing the growth that's made from our benchmark, which ended in end of April, to then we tested again in June to show you the growth that happened just in that short time. That's very promising.
Thank you.
And Laura, just what I would hope, because we talked about it a little bit, is that we'll be able to take some of our data and show what it also did with our summer school. Because we know, there's a drop. If you look at the bottom curve, that if some of that stayed steady, then that means that our investment is working in kindergarten. That's great information about the high school. Just tell them, thank you so much for what you guys have done in recovering those credits.
Absolutely. They were amazing.
Thank you. So while we have phenomenal educators and staff that have been guiding these students to help them recover all these credits and get on track, I know we have a monumental goal set, because we are still 2 or 3 years behind on our kids' learning loss gap. And I know it's not an easy feat. So I commend everybody for sticking it out. I commend the teachers and the staff members that have given up their summers to sit here and help these kids achieve more, not only just in our classrooms, but as they go out of the doors of our schools into the community to further work. And they wouldn't necessarily be able to do it if we didn't have this. So I'm very appreciative of the summer program. Not a lot more to say besides, there's only 4 weeks left. Please be safe and enjoy what you have left of summer.
Thank you. Mr. Carney?
Well, I've been wanting to say this for a while, and Alyssa kind of opened up the door, so I'm going to continue with what she was talking about. I've been on and off the board for almost 20 years now, lived in this community my whole life. And I've never seen the shenanigans, for lack of a better word, went on with a state representative trying to handpick boards and city commissions. And I think that is a big, big part of why there's division and animosity in the board. It's never happened before. So what caused it? Anybody ever thought about that? I think about it all the time. I'm not gonna get into the politics of it, but it's something we've never experienced in the last 25 years that I know of when I was associated with the school district. And when somebody does something like that, you gotta wonder what their motivation and what they're trying to accomplish. And I tried to talk to the guy, and he didn't like talking and come down and work things out, so we came about it. And I just progressed in the worst battle with other people. But I'm glad for a lot of reasons that this is my last term, because I hope it gets better, but I can't see it getting any better. It's a sad state. It was unfortunate that it happened. And by the way, I deleted my Facebook. Probably won't answer too many emails from people. This is about the board issues. That's all I got for now.
Thank you.
Mrs. Wall?
I would just like to extend my condolences. The district lost an amazing woman here at the board office, and I would just like to share my sorrow with her family. I'm really sorry. And I too am looking forward to this upcoming school year. Learning has definitely been happening all across the district. It has not stopped, and I hope that we continue to focus on the kids. Let's just focus on the kids.
Mr. Powell?
I like the last comment, and I just hope that we all move forward today and every day. You know, we say our district motto, you know, doing the best thing for kids in every classroom for every child. But, you know, really, I think we need to keep telling ourselves it's about the kids. It's about the kids. Sometimes it's so easy to get lost in other things that go on in our community and in our society. So just for the kids. A couple things came out that I think is worth highlighting, because we need to be looking forward if we are going to leverage these to continue to improve our district. Strangely, they came out of the school new federal gun law. But here are some of the things that we need to be considering, whether we need to go out for grants, you know, start prompting KSDE, hey, what are you going to do with this when it comes out? How are you going to distribute it? Because when I read this off, I mean, everybody will go, well, yeah, we've been throwing money at this and trying to do this the right way for a while. $100 billion to support activities to improve student learning, positive school climates through evidence-based practices. That's $1 billion. $500 million for the mental health services grant program, $500 million funding to the school-based mental health service professionals demonstration grant, $300 million in funding through the Stop School Violence to institute safety measures. You know, we talked about a number. We don't need to publicly talk about what it was, but in session, there may be some things that we can actually do now based upon us going after funding. $240 million in 4 years for awareness of mental health issues among school-age youth, $50 million in community learning centers, and $28 million set aside to support trauma care in schools. So, I mean, that's just the one bill. And then the last thing about what was passed in law, that this is one that I think we as a district need to be a little bit concerned about, and because our parent population have gotten used to doing things a certain way or not doing them anymore. According to what I'm reading here from KSB is that parents are going to have to go back to actually requesting school meals like they did before in that process. And it's been a given. And how many years now we've been doing, is it 2 years, where it's just you come and we feed you. So this is a huge change. And so I would hope that as Jake comes back, we'll get in the communication process of, we got to start just hammering parents that this is important. Their kids need to be fed, but they're not going to be part of that program unless they apply. So this is a big deal, and I'm a little concerned about it. I just want to echo that we did lose a really important person here. You all are, but we come in and there's always be a smile, and it just was that kind of person that just lit up that corner of the room. So I hope that her family knows that we share her loss. That's all.
Okay, well, lots of things covered. I think my big thing is I want everyone to be ready for that 25 July work session and some future work sessions. We have lots to get through because this new budget stuff is,
Intense.
yeah, there's a lot to understand, and it has repercussions that we need to be able to look forward. So please come ready, be ready to work, be ready to discuss, and we'll do our best to get through it all. For the summer sessions, I want to thank all the teachers and staff that worked on that. My son was one of the attendees, so thank you for keeping him on track. Getting all of our kids on track. The numbers that graduate and such, I'm very happy to hear that. And the number getting back on track is good. Before all board members leave, please, there's a table over there with pens. Please sign all of those resolutions because I don't want to come chase you down. So please sign them before you leave. Okay. And it's always hard to lose members of the district regardless of where they work. But yes, thank you. So with that in mind, sign the papers. Don't leave without that. Come ready to work on the 25th and go put your feet up till then. So we are adjourned at 7:27.